Welcome to the Digital Pit Boss, the aftermath. Welcome to the Digital Pit Boss.
One day I was just minding my own business and one of my coworkers came up to me and he was like, hey T, why you always so distant from everybody? It seems like you don't have friends. You always distant. It's like you don't let nobody get close to you. And the sad part about it was he was right. I really don't. I've seen a lot of friendships go down to the wayside and a lot of people business be put out in Front Street. It's crazy because your best friend will probably be the one to betray you. And they say love thy neighbor. But it's no telling how many bodies they got in their backyard because the grass sure does look good on top when the dirt is packed hard. See, me, I don't have friends. See, this terminology that we seem to believe in just doesn't seem to fit in the timeline of the generation that I was conceived in. Yeah, we cool. I'm your boy on the weekend, but as soon as I turn my back, that's when the flow boys go to creaking and the rats go to creeping and everybody starts talking like church women do about Deacon Brown's wife as soon as the pastor goes to preaching. But we are all good people, right? When you see me, it's, hey man, how you doing? Your family good? Everything good with you? But under their breath, they mumbling like, how was the bus would hit you? Wait, what was that? Nothing, man. Glad to see you doing okay. See, this is just an example of the things that tend to happen to me every single day, and I don't think it would get better, even if I pray, because you know the devil was an angel once upon a time. Because saying the fact that God had so much shine, so why should I have faith in mankind? When their jealousy is easy to see like pale white women tan lines, and as far as I can tell, some of us have been in the sun for far too long. So am I wrong? Am I just in my feelings? Did Tony not kill Manny? Did Bishop not kill Raheem? Is this not a representation of a vivid illustration of what happens when you let your so-called friends in on your team? Or is this just a dream? I know it's not the one to die the king, but in this picture all I can see is me just like everyone else. That's why we always gotta stop to take a selfie. So if it doesn't concern me, then it doesn't concern us. And we got gasoline soaked bridges that are waiting to burn trust, but we want equality for everyone. But everyone ain't for everyone, cause when you're down and out, there's never anyone to help pick you up, to help carry one. But it's kinda ironic because when you die, it takes 6 people to help carry one. But amongst everyone, nobody wants to be that very one. So if I die today, I don't want you liking none of my pictures, sharing my statuses, saying I miss you. Cause when I was here, day to day, you ain't give a shit about me. Now you putting on that they're like you can't forget about me. And that's real. T-Law.
What it do? Okay, as y'all see, I posted the PayPal because y'all don't really want me to come back and drill this shit for real, do you? We ain't gonna go through another round of it. I'm just sitting here becoming a target while y'all entertain. Y'all gonna pay for this shit. So let's get into this a little bit. I would really enjoy if I could get several people to read a chapter of The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, a historical analysis of the failure of Black leadership by Harold Cruse, which we will be reading from today. I had some discussions with people that work in the school systems at the college level. They have friendships with other professors in the college, and they followed my paradigm so swell that they decided they would approach these doctors and professors at the college level And they questioned him about Harold Cruse, and their response was, I never heard of him. Sad. Because Harold Cruse was an intellect of liberal arts and at the top of the charts. But there was one thing about him, is he didn't buy into the propaganda, so he used his skills to write a book so phenomenal that when the book was published, 10 white people wrote a response to his book as thick as and thicker than his book. But no black people uttered a word at the time. And so there's a reason why the intellects of the day did not want to respond to Harold Cruse. One, they were not at his same eloquence and articulation of his literary skill. They were all the way consumed in their liberalism, multiculturalism, integrationalism, communism, socialism, that they didn't want to be seen or exposed for their view. The Harold Cruse video is still up. It's on my other channel, Digital Pitt Boss Effect. And you can see the audio there. But if you want to participate in the audio reading of a Harold Cruse book, got to be able to read, because Harold Cruse book is very difficult to read. And I know a lot of y'all think you can read, but as you hear me try to challenge this chapter I'm going to read, you're going to find me slowing down to say a few of the words that are in it. But you will have to email me at 99lightyears@gmail.com. You'll also have to buy the book so you could practice prior to reading it. And then we're going to put up the whole entire book audio version on YouTube. If I could get some people to donate to the process, I will distribute the money with everybody that participate. If people think that Harold Cruse is worthy of having his material existing online so that it can contrast this fake black power y'all bought into. This book hit so hard. I mean, it destroys the Black Panthers. It destroys socialism, communism. It destroyed all that shit in one book. And y'all never heard of Harold Cruse other than the little 20-minute video I posted. Just Google his name on YouTube. Just YouTube his name and find that he got maybe 2 videos out of the billion videos on YouTube. He only recently, I think he recently passed in like 2008, something like that. And I really discovered the power of his information. Earlier, I might have tried to track him down and get an interview or just talk to him on the phone or something to understand. He was ostracized in the black community. It's kind of sad because the shit clarifies too many things. When I exposed his information to the conscious community, it took them way off guard. It wasn't one person doing YouTube videos in what they call the conscious community who was even aware of Harold Cruse, even had a copy of the book. And to this day, very few still have obtained this information. And I often sit around and say to myself, damn, this is going to be sad if, you know, this book don't go audio, because obviously those who make audio books are avoiding Harold Cruse. Nobody want to touch it. It's kryptonite, the Superman. This book hit hard. So what I want to do before I begin the reading, somebody hit that damn donation button, put $100 on it. Give me some energy in this energy. Give me some energy for this energy. Y'all ain't gonna support no real shit. Sonetta just got $15,000 something for a bogus ass award show. Because y'all like the bullshit. I mean, that's why I'm out. Because y'all so stuck on the bullshit that real shit can't get word in. Y'all rather go buy a rap album. Whatever. You is not gonna support no real shit. Y'all gonna look at the real shit and go get scared of shit. So what I like to do, let me see if I can open this shit up a little bit, is damn it. I got a couple of pictures. I'm gonna click through the pictures, talk a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna see if y'all can understand the depth of this shit, right? Let me see if my picture thing. Oh my God, it ain't gonna work. Hold on. I gotta figure out how to make this shit work. All right. Oh, damn it. Okay, I know what I'll do. Since it won't work that way, I'm gonna blow this up big as I can. Try to get it to cover the screen. Oops. Hold on while I get this thing to work right. Okay, let's try this over again. Let's come out of there. Come back in here. Close that. Open this. Blow it up. And see if I can get this thing to channel through the pics. Okay. That's the way we got to do it. So this is where I want your minds to focus. This is where I want you to understand where I'm at in this video. The topic is the Jews and the blacks in communism. But we're going to go all the way back through Harold Cruse's eyes to 1929, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. As Harold Cruse give us a perspective of Jews and the blacks. Mind you, Harold Cruse is writing this as he is reflecting on his life because he's living through it as it's occurring. It's different the way he did it because a lot of authors didn't necessarily live through what they're talking about. They learned it in college and they're using research. They're reading paper clips and articles in order to come up to some determination of the circumstance that they're writing about. And although Harold Cruse may have did research in the process of what he's speaking on, he also is living through it in live time and just reflecting on what he understood. He published this particular book in 1967. He worked on it 5 years prior to that. And he's taking you back decades to lay his foundation down. So most of y'all who love the Black Panthers and don't understand what the hell they were on, the Black Panthers favored Vladimir Lenin and his perspective. The Africans in South Africa today at the ANC, they follow a socialist communist view, a Russian perspective of Black power. They assimilated their view to the red, black, and green flag, which then confused the message. The Comedics in America has done the same thing. And so when I hear people speak, I realize they're just confused. Mind you, the Black Panthers had no association to the red, black, and green. Today's modern Black Panther group, the new Black Panther Party, as y'all already know, associate with Hashim Nzinga. We speak. I know his views. And he just appreciates the political aspirations of the first Black Panthers. But I know the background story of why his group is named the New Black Panther Party, because the original Panther Party fought against them using that name. It took them to court. And in court, the judge awarded them that they could be called the New Black Panther Party, because they originally started off with resurrecting the Black Panthers until they took them to court and said, you can't use that name. Now, why would the Panthers that living at the time of this court case, which was probably like 1994 or something, have an issue with another group of Black people wanting to resurrect the Panthers and push that agenda? Because the new agenda didn't have a socialist communist view. They didn't stand for the same thing. Therefore, they were offended, rightfully so. But they couldn't get them to completely change the name. They want them to be called anything but Black Panthers. But that wasn't the case. The judge decided, no, they could be called the New Black Panthers. So they're not under the same ideology, but they do want liberation for Black people. Now, the first Panthers, they didn't want nationalism for Black people. They were not nationalists. They wanted socialism for Black people. They wanted integration for Black people. What they have in common, the new Black Panthers and the first Black Panthers, is that both of them want to eliminate police brutality. Both of them want more rights, fair rights for Black people. That's some of their commonalities. But if they were both to be successful, the first Black Panthers and the new Black Panthers, if they both were to be successful at their agenda, the first group would become like Cuba. And the new group, they would become nationalists like Garvey. First group, they would go off in the direction of Mao Zedong's ideology, of Karl Marx's ideology, of Vladimir Lenin's ideology, of Martin Luther King's ideology, of Barack Obama's ideology. And the new Black Panther Party, they would go in the direction of Marcus Garvey's ideology, Booker T. Washington's ideology, Nat Turner's ideology, Harriet Tubman's ideology. While the old Black Panther Party would go in the direction of an Al Sharpton ideology, a Jesse Jackson ideology. Don't make me fuck y'all up with this. I know this is boy, this is one of them subjects. Ain't it a shame I'm going to delete this motherfucking video after I'm done? I'm just here to speak to you live and in effect. Give you this heat. So let's click to another picture. Here we got Obama with the Jews. And we have that Hebrew Israelite candlestick in the middle of it. The Jewish menorah. The 7 lights of God. The 7 archangels. All kinds of representations come out of that. Also, the fake Black Power comedics of the 70s took the Jewish menorah and called it Kwanzaa. Because they were socialists from the bastard party. Well, not the bastard party. That was some other shit in California. From the Black Panther parties of the 60s, they would evolve into the comedic ideology of Kwanzaa. And they would mix that shit with the Jewish menorah. And they would come with the 3 red sticks, 3 green sticks, and 1 black stick and give it a Swahili terminology. Blend that shit into a gumbo pot of fucking confusion. Y'all niggas would sit around with no historical references and follow suit like sheeples. Don't make me fuck you up with this shit. So we go on a little further to this NAACP. And we all know that W.E.B. Du Bois and Joel Spingard initiated this NAACP union with the Jews and the blacks. Jews jump right on in. Integration for blacks. Separatism for the Jew. Give the blacks integration, take away their economic power, and establish a state for Israel to be separated from the rest of the world and ball out of goddamn control. Nothing in law is above the Jew. Not a goddamn thing. Jew is a master of his day. A master. Y'all can hate that shit, but that shit true. And here they are, fucking with the NAACP. Rabbi Harry Wanton in 1939, quote, Judaism is communism, internationalism and universal brotherhood of man, the emancipation of working class and the human society. It is with these spiritual weapons that the Jew will conquer the world and the human race. And oh, was he goddamn right. Because apparently in 1939, they had not yet achieved world domination. But he knew what they was going to do. Then we got your boy, the socialist, communist, integrationist Martin Luther King at a communist training center, getting his inauguration into becoming the world leader for the Jew. Also, Martin Luther King's handlers were from the Communist Jewish Party. They funded Martin Luther King. They got out there on the pavement with Martin Luther King. A couple of them died fucking around with Martin Luther King. These Jews is serious about their goddamn mission. They willing to die for their shit. What about you? Here's just an old random pic of a Jewish rabbi and some Negro. Oh, goddamn. South Africa. The Jews are behind that shit too. Communist Jews. With your boy. Standing behind a big ass hammer and sickle, which would become the black fist. We got the Jewish white fist and the black fist. This shit is all through your leaders, and Harold Cruse is going to bust this shit down long before any of this shit take place. There they go. Karl Marx, Lenin, Mao Zedong, these are the leaders of the Black Panther. at least their ideological leaders. This is what make me laugh like a motherfucker when y'all stand around yelling Black Power, throwing up the fists. I say, you niggas is robot machines fucking with the wrong machine. Don't know what the fuck y'all doing. This shit is fake as a motherfucking $3 bill. It's fucked up. Here's a book, Documented Proof. Jews Are Behind Race Mixing by Dr. Edward R. Fields, circa 1970. Fuck with it. Google it. Buy it. Read it. Learn it. Karl Marx never ran a company, never held political office, never oversaw any accounts, never ever held a job, any job, supported throughout his life by his friends, Frederick Engels, the son of a wealthy factory owner, considered by many to be the greatest social, political, and economic philosopher of all times. All applications of his theories have ended in failure. Negroes beware. Do not attend the communist meeting. Paid organizers for the communists are only trying to get Negroes in trouble. Alabama is a good place for good Negroes to live in, but it is a bad place for Negroes who believe in social equality. The Ku Klux Klan is watching you. Take heed. Tell the communist leaders to leave. Report all communist meetings to the Ku Klux Klan. Post Office Box 651, Birmingham, Alabama. See, the Negro is such a puppet that whoever pulls on his ass, he's getting pulled in 8 directions. Everybody is a puppeteer to the Negro. You being threatened by the Ku Klux Klan, the Democrats, led by the communists, the socialists, and stirred the fuck away from black nationalism. Don't even think about it, my nigga. Equal rights for the Negroes, vote communists. There's some random shit floating around the black paradigm. Oh, Harold Cruse gonna tap deep into this shit. There's the man who wrote the book, The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, a historical analysis of the failure of black leadership. That's the man, Harold Cruse himself. Equal rights for the Negro everywhere. Self-determination for the black belt. Vote communist. For president, W.M.Z. Foster. For vice president, James W. Ford. Boy, y'all don't know nothing about that shit, do you? All right, that's enough for the picture show. I'm already way too goddamn deep. Way too motherfucking deep. Let's see what y'all commenting up in here. Let's see. Dig. I just came in to hear a little famo. Cool. DPB back at ya. I'm starting in my preach. Don't get it twisted. Y'all know, he knows a lot. Many people have their own definition of what black power is. Of course, there are those who follow certain traditions. Ebony Knowledge, I don't even understand why you even show up in the fucking room. You goddamn got something to say every time I open my motherfucking mouth. How in the fuck is you gonna learn? I mean, I like you. You show up and support, but your motherfucking ass is against every motherfucking thing I'm talking about. I mean, Sonetta is live every motherfucking day. I come on like once a motherfucking month on average. You need to slow your motherfucking roll and just understand where the fuck I'm going with this shit. You would get something out of it that would change your perspective, but your ass tune in on some real, I gotta love you and hate you at the same time because I'm fucking with your mind with this shit. It's not that comment, goddamn. It's all your goddamn comments. I mean, I fuck with you because I see you in here a lot, but I ain't never spoke to you. We ain't never really hollered. We ain't never put shit together. And what the fuck? I mean, this shit right here is deep as a motherfucker. And it's not even Pitt Boss that's about to speak. It's Harold Cruse. I'm about to read straight from the book. And he gonna fuck your head up and you can't match him with nobody. I'm telling you. Do you even got the book? Don't make me post up the $5 book. You motherfuckers, let me see if one of you niggas supported my motherfucking PayPal. Y'all niggas want free lessons, I know. Y'all motherfuckers lucky I'm a hustler. I'm gonna get my motherfucking money ready to fuck with me or not. Fuck what you talking about. I do not plan on fucking YouTube motherfucking chat room to fuck with me. I'm just giving y'all this shit for fun because, you know, that's just what it is. All right. So since none of you niggas is going to support the show, let's get it on. Let's get this shit over with so I can block this shit. I like talking shit to y'all while I serve this shit up. I just do that shit for fun, though. Because y'all kind of enjoy when I talk shit. Y'all expect me to do that shit. So I just give you what you came for. That's all. Don't take it personal, Ebony Knowledge. I fucks with you. I just like to talk shit. Even to the people that fuck with me, I just spaz out on your ass. You be thinking, I thought we was cool, Pitt. Motherfucker, fuck you. You know, I just go fucking crazy. Fuck it. All right. Now, like I said, y'all, this book is a difficult read, at least for me, you know, my little low intelligence. So I'm gonna give it a shot. And like I said, I'm just reading a specific section that I just chose to fuck with today. I mean, you can pick any section of his book, it's gonna hit. And I really would love for some of y'all to email me that are very great readers that would really like to get in a real sound booth and record an audio of his book. I mean, this shit will be monumental. You will be the only person reading this book in audio form for the next 20 goddamn years. There got to be something in it for you of personal value. If you fuck with Harold Cruse, if you don't think what I'm about to read is real shit, then you know you're gonna be like them socialist communist niggas. You ain't about to be able to stand it. How many of you just put a 1 in the goddamn chat room if you would go join a socialist communist party today? Drop a motherfucking 1 in the chat room. Let me find out how many of you, you know, really like rather have a socialist communist view. Just put a 1 in there. I mean, don't be upset. There's no right or wrong to what you choose to be. You want to be a Hebrew, a Kemetic, an atheist, a Christian, a Moor, you know, it's your life. Oh, Ricky King ain't fucking with it. Put a 0 if you ain't fucking with socialist communism. Put a 0 since Ricky laid down the foundation. Because I really want to know, because you niggas be wolfing black power all over this motherfucker. And y'all motherfucking views and your socialist communist fists don't fit the motherfucking perspective. I'm telling you. All right, let's see. We got a few pages now. It's good goddamn 20 pages, man. Woo! Let me tell you something. For the same group of elites. Nah. See, Ebony, this is where your emotionalism fucks your whole thinking up. All these elites ain't rolling on the same paradigm. This is why we can't get nowhere. All these motherfuckers got different views. Harold Cruse breaks that down in the video. You can watch him do it in the video in 1971. Like, he tear at their ass. This is real serious shit. See, the low level of my motherfucking chat room kind of despairs me from coming on live and really getting flexing with this shit, because I be reading these goddamn comments from these same motherfucking names, and I just be like, where in the fuck is the new people? Where in the fuck is the new people at? What? Would you share my motherfucking video so I can get somebody new up in this motherfucker? Can I finally get somebody who understands what the fuck I'm talking about? Can I? All right. Hold on, let me clear my throat. Woo! This is gonna be rough, man. This is gonna be rough. Let's get it. This is the audio or the reading of Harold Cruse's The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, a historical analysis of the failure of Black leadership, published in 1967. And we are in the chapter of the Jews and the Negroes in the Communist Party. Get ready. He about to bust your bubble. Don't go crazy in the goddamn chat. If you say something in the chat, respond to the fucking information I'm reading. Don't go on some lame ass shit about one of these nibber channels and no crazy shit. Thank you for being polite. Polite gold shoes up in this bitch. All right, let's get it. Harold Cruse. During the Communist Party, Anglo-Saxons period of Dunn Minor, Williams, and Earl Browder, etc., there was more open inquiry into the precise nature of the Negro question than there was to be later on. Right or wrong, there was a certain flexibility and a willingness to survey and debate. But this open-minded freshness went out of the Communist Party very rapidly. By 1929, when the West Indies American Negro era of debate began, an unyielding, narrow-minded rigidity permitted the party though on all questions, what should have been the Negro theoreticians' period of pioneer achieving and creative originality became, by default, a period of cheap militancy, imitative posturing, and a blind invasion of Negro realities. The West Indies American Negro brain trust could not utter a single theoretical idea about themselves unless they first invoked the precedent of the Moscow line, so that everybody would know in advance they had not the slightest intention of disagreeing with it. This situation led inexorably to a period of Jewish dominance in the Communist Party. It culminated in the emergence of Herbert Aptheker, the other assimilated Jewish communist, who assumed the mantle of spokesmanship on Negro affairs, thus burying the Negro radical potential deeper and deeper in the slough of the white intellectual Puritanism. The new intergroup was composed of old guard, first-generation communists from the Jewish Socialist Federation and the trade unions, plus a young weave that was to emerge as the communist intellectual and theoretical corpse of the 1930s and 40s. This younger group, who took command of the daily worker, new masses, and the communists, assumed various roles. Some remained communist Jews, others become assimilated Jewish American communists. A few became triple threat experts on Jews, Negroes, and Gentile labor organizations, with foreign affairs thrown in for good measure. There were even some who became more Negro than the Negroes, never mentioning their Jewish background. The Jewish communists were often more arrogant and paternalistic than the Anglo-Saxon, more self-righteous and intellectually supercilious about the Marxist line on America than any other minority group striving for the ideal standard of radical Americanism. One wonders how it is possible for the Negro, both Americans and West Indies, to remain in the party and accept such a demeaning subordination. Nothing could account for this but the minimizing appeal of the Marxist doctrine, which had seduced away the ability of their minds to think independently. From 1935 to 1937, James W. Ford, the leading Negro of the party, wrote articles after articles on the subject of the Negro Democratic or People's Front from 1932 onward. Of course, the communists had their biggest propaganda windfall in the infamous Scottsboro case. The importance of this episode goes far beyond the organizational and propaganda aspects. For, as Quentin Reynolds once pointed out, it coincided with the exact period in which the Daily Worker was able to purchase its own printing presses. This was the Communist Party's heroic era. However, as a true indication of which of the ethnic groups was getting the most mileage out of the People's Democratic Front, the Communists of September 1938 came out with an article by V.J. Jerome Herring, The Year of Jewish Life. It reported that Jewish Life, a monthly cultural magazine in England, had been started in June 1937 by a Jewish bureau of the New York State Communist Party. In other words, while assimilated Jewish American communists were leading on the board fronts in the Communist Party, the unassimilated communist Jews were upholding a historical purity of Jewish cultural identity in the same Communist Party. Of course, it goes without saying that the Communist Party assumed that neither the American Negro at large nor his Negro brethren in the ranks of the party had any real cultural identity to defend, especially in a cultural publication supported by the party funds. With the Negro in the People's Front, everything went under the heading of Negro white working class unity. During this unity process, there would be little time for the Negro communists with ideas about self-determination to get together and put out a party-sponsored publication called, for example, Black Life. The very proposal of such a publication would have raised the horrible nationalist spectra of the Garveyite inter-party plot. Thus, any radical Negro writers or poets of the time who had anything to say as a media, either the Daily Worker or the New Masses, in effect, two more white publication editorial policies like any other white publication. In that same issue of the Communists, September 1938, there was an article by Irene Bowder in which she wrote, "In the United States, a national group is not a nation or even a national minority as understood in European countries. a tendency exists to identify the problem as a national group with general problems of oppressed nations. On the other hand, some of our comrades regard the Negro people as national groups, people belonging to various nationalities in America, look back to their native country or to the countries of their ancestors and cannot be indifferent to the conditions they see there. It was as if to say that the Garvey movement in the preceding decades had not demonstrated that many Blacks in America looked back to the country of their ancestors and could not be indifferent to it. But the communists and all the Negro leaders felt such sentiments for Negroes, were utopian and let matters drop. This article graphically reveals the basis of the Communist Party dereliction on the problem of the national group, especially the Negro national group. There was, in fact, some very deep deceptive involved in it, and it does not matter what group is called, minority, nation, or nationality. Fundamentally, it all amounts to the same thing. Peculiarities such as race, color, culture, or religion, economic status, geographical location, etc., may differ, as well as the relationship status of smaller groups to larger and more powerful ones. Nevertheless, all groups come under the same political heading, the national question. Whether in Marxist terminology or in the language of science and international relations, the hair splitting over terms shown in the above article reveal more than the mere confusion. It was willfully confusion that was openly permitted to persist as a way of avoiding conflict with the official party lines on the Negro. Unable or unwilling to accept the realities that America is a group society, the next to the Anglo-Saxon Protestant group, the American Negro is the largest national minority in America. The communists clung to the oppressed nation in the Black Belt. Concepts of Moscow theoreticians, a concept that separated the entire Negro national group into two artificial sections, North and South. It was meant to leave the non-Southern Negro in the option of assimilation in theory, which logically ruled out nationalistic movements as a utopian, reactionary and anti-unity, etc. This approach also ruled out, again in theory, all pure cultural groups, expressions such as economic cooperatives, special publications, literary and artistic groups. This unwillingness to enable of the communists to come to the grips with the Negro national group realities was displayed on both sides of the racial fence among the party leaders and theoreticians. It was the white communist leaders who actually laid down the line, but the Negro leaders followed it without deviation. The whites, for the most part, confused themselves and were forced to raise many questions and doubts on the Negro issue, questions only the Negroes themselves could have answered. Negro leaders, however, consistently failed to answer them. In 1921, when the white leaders were courting the reality of organized Black nationalism, the Negroes in the ABB were trying to subordinate nationalism to communism. Later, when the communists turned their backs on the Black nationalism, the same Negro leaders followed suit. The Negro intellectuals and radical theorists of the 1920s and the 30s did not themselves fight for intellectual clarity. They were unable to create a new Black revolutionary synthesis of what was applicable from Garveyism, especially economic nationalism, and what they had learned from Marxism that was valid. Yet with such theoretical synthesis, Negroes would not really have needed a communist party. They could have laid down the foundation for a new school of revolutionary ideas, which, if developed, could have maintained the problematic continuities between the issues and events of the 1920s and the Negro movement of the 1950s and the 60s. And the young Negro intellectuals of today would probably not be facing theoretical and intellectual vacuums. Although the late 1920s and into the 1930s, there were several factions of white intellectual radicals who kept up a steady barrage of criticism, very valid criticism, about the programs and the tactics of the Communist Party. There was, in fact, a violent literary war going on, but waged only among the whites. Negro intellectuals representing the newest of social trends were not involved in this war to the slightest degree. By the 1930s, the Negro still had not learned that from him, economics, politics, and culturals are inseparable. The economic panic brought by the 1929 crash also caused cultural panic among the white intellectuals. From the point of view of their own class and creative status, they saw that these events, the beginnings of a terrible disintegration of Western civilization. There was American culture going on as a result of all this. It was the conflict among different schools of white intellectuals on how to save Anglo-Saxons and European cultural values that caused the literary war. It never really occurred to most of these people that the only way to preserve the limited achievement of American cultural to extend to the creative range was to take all possible steps to democratizing it radically and ethically. Most of the white intellectuals, including the assimilated Jews in the communist left wing, were bowing and scraping before the creative altars of literary and cultural Anglo-Saxonism. They would not deal with American as a nation of nations. They talked about the social revolution, but it was a revolution of cultural Americanization in accordance with the dominant American image, if such a thing is conceivable. The only one who talked Americanization but did not fall for the culturally were the communists, Jews who never overlooked a single stratagem from the preservation of Jewish cultural identity. One of the main fronts of the literary war was the conflict between the literary and cultural pundits of the Communist Party and the non-communists, but pro-left-wingers, pro-revolutionaries, writers and critics. From the 1920s into the 1930s, this literary left opposition was centered mainly around magazine Modern Quarterly, edited by V.F. Calverton and S.D. Skolmelhasm. From the source came some of the most intelligent and stringent criticism of the whole Communist Party approach to literary and cultural affairs. Many of the arguments raised in the publication had direct bearing on the Negro struggle in economics, politics, and above all, cultural. But since the communists were feuding with V.F. Calverton, not a single idea on the Negro rise in the Modern Quarterly was ever discussed in the communists. All literary and cultural questions on the Negro were left to Michael Gold's sectarianism care, the New Masses, the United Front publication. Although New Masses would never print a single line of criticism that the communists could quarrel with. As a result, the Negro radical intellectuals of the Harlem Negro Communist theoreticians either learn nothing at all from the wealth of the critical material printed by the modern quarterly, or elsewhere so subordinate to the ideas and influence of the communist whites. What they dread not express a single idea themselves that was independently critical. God damn it, I gotta take a breath. I'm trying not to stutter the words. Let me see, my goddamn bell ringer went off. Sound like a donation. Yes, let me repeat. This is a thick book. It is a difficult read. It is something you have to read and then read again. And then you got to really understand the time of Black thought in the 1920s and the 1930s, when these Black publications, these communist publications, and these white Anglo-Saxon publications were spreading propaganda in order to prepare themselves to control the Black people's mindset. The NAACP was placing their agents, provocateurs in every sector. They were trying to destroy completely the national rhetoric of Garveyism in exchange for the theoretician's perspective of communism in Black thought. That shit's deeper than you can imagine. Should I keep going? Amazingly, should I keep going? How's my reading? Are you able to understand me? Get in the goddamn comments. Get in the comment section. Give me some feedback. Oh yeah, brother Larry, I know this one right here. You just over there drilling with this one, huh? All right. Calvin Ladd and Ricky King and Larry Williams say keep going. Let's take it a little further. We ain't even begun this section. I picked a long section. I should have chose something shorter. Is it making any sense? Are you able to take this information and superimpose it on today's rhetoric and ideas? Is it yet evolving into a picture in your mind? Ricky King, I can't answer your question. I'm gonna have to let Harold Cruse answer it as he gets ready to dig a little deeper. Let's keep it going. Harold Cruse, continuing. In October, December of 1925, an issue of the Modern Quarterly, W.E.B. Du Bois opened up a discussion on the effects of the Harlem Renaissance, which represented a new cultural challenge to accept American creative standards. And he writes, where is, without a doubt, a certain group expression of art which can be called American Negro, whence did this art come? If allowed enough of the intellectual freedoms of the economic wealth, the Negroes will in time almost inevitably found a school of art, and they will in the way contribute to the great artistic wealth of the world. Already, this art expression is showing its peculiarities, its unique content. The American who wants to serve the world has unusual opportunities here. In the May-June of 1926 issue appeared an article by Alan Locke on the American literary traditions and the Negro. In the winter issue of January 1927, Clarence Cameron White, a Negro composer, wrote on the labor motif of the Negro music. A stunning article by Carl E. Gathering called The Western Dance of Death appeared in the winter issue of 1930 and 31. Gathering wrote, leading weight to the belief that the civilizations of the West is receding. The aspect of musical art point to decline. But for the American, jazz is this country's individual contribution to musical composition. To sum up jazz more concisely in terms of Western music and its relation to the future of accidental civilization as against American music and its bearing on the mulatto United States to come, it has made little impression on the music of the West. At home, it is more immediately monumentous in being the ultimately compelling way. Its significance assumes broader impacts in the jazz rhythmic propensity to duplicate Russian musical tendencies. The significance of jazz is further reaching. Jazz is hybrid, the mulatto of musical composition, offering the union of Aboriginal rhythm with the Caucasian scheme of music. To sum up the American situation, musicologists of perspectives are honest enough to grant the Negro race has given this country its only pure folk music. And this material is good material for national music, but not for the Caucasian race to exploit as white men's music. This is also of Black and tan concern. Although the author mentions a score of ranking composers from Beethoven to Gershwin and Wagner, not a single Negro was cited. However, the important question of American national music was honestly raised. It was rare in those days when jazz became the rage in New York, and is even rarer today. As I pointed out, perversely, the exploitative radical factors involved in jazz music posed a serious and complex social, economic, plus cultural challenges. It was, in fact, a truly Native American touchstone on which the whole concept of cultural revolution could have hinged. And had the creative intellectuals, both Black and white, seen the implications and faced up to them in a political fashion, but the Negro intellectuals did not take up this issue and develop it and fight it out as their issue, their stake, their main platform, and their specific demand for cultural revolution. In fact, there is little evidence that they ever saw the material basis of this revolution appearing in the form of radio, film, and electronic recording, a technological revolution in the field of education, entertainment, and the arts. They did not understand the more profound reason behind the fears and the concern of certain perspectives of people in the 1920s, that mass communication media might fall entirely into private ownership. The Negro radical intellectuals did not see the implications of this threat for a simple reason that cultural revolution was not the revolution of the communists we're talking about. How could they have caught up with the realities of culture when they had not even caught up with their own group realities in the economics and politics? With this failure of the Negro intellectuals, the perceptive cultural whites had no political point of departure on which to base their criticism of the official communist stance on social revolution in the United States. In 1929, E. Franklin Frazier was already marshaling sociological arguments that would emerge full-blown 28 years later. The Black Bourgeoisie, the rise of the new middle class. In his Modern Quarterly article that year, Frazier elected to use the French title La Bourgeoisie Noire, no doubt, to camouflage his Negro self-criticism, even less popular than in 1957. In this article, Fraser effectively demolished several Sibelius about the Negro movement in Harlem of the 1920s. He cut the grounds from under much of what became the Communist Party dogma about the Negro working class, and also analyzed the reasons why the Negro intellectual as a class could not be originally radically thinkers. Many of those who criticized the Negro for selecting certain values out of American life overlooked the fact that the primary struggle on the part has been to acquire a culture. In spite of the efforts of those who would have him dug up for his African past, the Negro is a stranger to African culture. The manner in which he has taken over American culture has never been studied in the intimate enough details to make it comprehensible. The education class among Negroes has been the forerunner in the process. In other words, Fraser saw that the American Negro question was and is also a cultural one, which has never been examined closely enough by all concerned. Fraser implied then that Garvey's Back to Africa movement, for example, was utopian only because it was escapist, because it abstracted the Negroes ideologically out of the American context and identified him with an African culture to which he was a stranger. The educated Negro classes in America did not accept Garvey's nationalism because of their ready adoption of American white values. Garvey, however, like other educated West Indies, was demonstratively pro-British in his values. Fraser continued, except perhaps through the church, the economic basis of civilized classes among Negroes has not been within the group. Although today the growing professional and business classes are finding support among the Negroes, the upper classes are subsidized chiefly from without. To some outsiders, such a situation makes the Negro intellectual appear as an employee of the white groups. At times, the emasculating effects of the Negro men appearing in the role of a mere entertainer for the whites has appeared in all its tragic reality. Note that their clearly discernible social strata are defined here. The old, established, educated upper-class Negro subsidized by whites, a new rising professional and business class, and the Harlem Renaissance, creative intellectuals, and allied performing artists, entertainers, etc. Only the new black bourgeois class tend to be economically in the Negro community. Although all of these stratas tend to conform to bourgeois class values, if not white values, they are not uniform in the nature of their ties and or loyalties to the Negro lower class group. How then would one deal with these class factors, especially from the revolutionary point of view? Boom, let's stop and talk for a minute. So my take from this little excerpt is somewhere in the 1930s, this bourgeoisie class is now forming, and it's filled with actors, entertainers, liberal art majors, and they're being funded outside of the narrative of black people by some outside force that we have come to know as the Jews, who are making these entertainers rich, the same thing they're doing today. And they're using the popularity of these entertainers, actors, and bourgeoisies to get their white Anglo-Saxon message and Jewish communist message into the minds of black people to divert from an African connection of the Garveyite perspective. They are destroying any nationalist thought among black people while they utilize the communist rhetoric in the minds of Black leaders. This is why the book is entitled The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, because it is these intellectuals who have formed the thoughts of Black people today. This is a super serious issue. And so why Black people who are really the bourgeoisie children of today, the prominent speakers that you love, they tend to redirect who the enemy is. And so they have made the enemy the Bible. Those that followed the Bible became the enemy according to these socialites. And they transfixed your mind to become radical in the form of a communist socialist idea that had never existed among Black real revolutionaries. Real revolutionaries before the socialist communist view would never fuck with what y'all fuck with today as revolutionary ideas. Among Black people, to be revolutionary from a Garvey perspective is to connect yourself to Africa and away from this communist socialist concept that the white folks and the Jews would love you to adhere yourself to. This shit is too goddamn deep. Where in the fuck is the money? Who in the fuck then got in the box? Y'all want me bring it out for free, right? Why you can't go buy the goddamn book since you don't want to donate? It cost $5. Y'all want me post the link to the book? Do y'all need the book? It's many more pages, but I think I gave y'all a little too much so far. This shit gets so deep. I'm telling you, y'all not ready for this shit. This shit right here is beyond the scope. A lot of this stuff is so buried in our history that y'all don't know what I'm talking about when I say a publication called The Rise of the New Middle Class or the Modern Quarterly. Y'all don't even know what those publications are anymore. I don't think you understand that Harold Cruse is specifying names. He calling out names. He spotting W.E.B. Du Bois at the time doing shit live while y'all give W.E.B. Du Bois all this credit for being such a high intellect, when you should be understanding that he was leading the way to destroy your mind so that you would become an integrationist and veer away from the Garveyism, Black national, the real Black national, not this bullshit y'all niggas is coming with today, this fake ass Black nationalism all mixed up and gumbled up in some motherfucking Kwanzaa bullshit. Fuck what you're talking about. I'm fucking with Harold Cruse. I'm not fucking with none of this shit y'all niggas is putting out today. None of that shit can line up with this, nor do they have a book that I can focus on a real perspective. I can go play Malcolm X right now and show you his fraud speech when he was following Elijah. And I can show you how these niggas was part of the bourgeoisie talking about the bourgeoisie. And y'all gonna be mad because y'all love Malcolm because he was checking them white folks publicly while he led you into more motherfucking integration. Some of y'all might say, well, you know, Malcolm X, he was rolling with the red, black, and green. His parents was Garveyites, but he didn't fuck with the Garveyite movement when he got his understanding. He went for the falsified nation building, the Nation of Islam. Part of the Margaret Sanger, Alice Bailey beat up Christianity movement. Oh, I know y'all gonna hate this shit. I know y'all gonna hate this shit. Because it's not me speaking this information. It's Harold Cruse And he would have been right in step with the King, with Malcolm X. He was of their time. His intellectual abilities was before them, greater than them. Unless you can go find me a book written by your favorites that can dispel Harold Cruse's perspective. It is difficult. This is why nobody wrote a response to this book. All these accusations about all these leaders, and not one body speak up. Nobody got nothing to say about nothing. Nobody put it in writing because it would last too long and you would expose yourself trying to fight this literary genius, Harold Cruse. You would have exposed yourself way too big. Your career would have went straight downhill had you tried to get in an intellectual debate with Harold Cruse. You would have got smashed. You would have been exposed for being part of the new bourgeoisies of the literary intellect of the 1930s product child in the 60s, trying to fuck with Harold Cruse. He would have walked you back to your handlers and showed your communist connections and social agenda to destroy black economics and black nationalism, to destroy it and reinvent that shit. As I want to drink from the same fucking water fountain as white folks. Fuck having my own restaurant and running my own community and nationalizing my people. Fuck all that. Let me get this motherfucking integration shit pop in. They paying entertainers millions of dollars to fuck with your mind. And y'all niggas hate Pitt Boss because I just bring it out. Bring it out! That's a couple of Hebrew niggas I got in the back. Bring it out! None of these niggas in none of these organizations could pose an intellectual that they follow that explains this shit like Harold Cruse. This is why y'all don't know a goddamn thing about Harold Cruse, because they're running education. And they'll be goddamn if they let you get that mentality in the midst of your shit while you sitting in class getting your PhD degree. And you start realizing that the motherfuckers who teaching you are the bourgeoisie of the NAACP integrationist elect. And they do not plan on giving your ass a PhD in any degree to destroy what the fuck they're doing. Because they're being paid to subjugate the black community for a Bentley, for a prestigious job. These motherfuckers done sold your ass up the river, and it ain't no way motherfucking out. And if you fight against this shit in any kind of goddamn way publicly, you'll be put to death by the hands that rule you. That's why Malcolm X was a puppet. Martin Luther King was a puppet. Farrakhan is a puppet. But they sound like they rolling with that real shit. But they're not. You can say, well, they died in the mist. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King was changing his motherfucking mind. These motherfuckers don't change their minds. They play their part to the death of them. The agenda is in full motherfucking effect today. Tell me I'm lying. Y'all don't know, have a fucking clue the type of shit Harold Cruse is talking about. And he doing it real poetically. He ain't cussing you out like Pitt Boss. He giving you high-level education on black history in the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. He killing the game. Nobody in the black society put up a response. Doesn't that strike you peculiar? All these intellects, And nobody responded. They didn't even give him a hand clap. Like, well, fuck it, I'll just agree with. They didn't even want to agree with him. Because even to agree with him was self-destruction. Harold Cruse's book is still uncontested by the black bourgeoisie. So you can't be for black power, and your whole black power movement is being controlled by somebody from the NAACP who act like they done switch sides, getting paid by the Jew to fool your ass a little further. It doesn't matter who you try to contest me with, I'll only bring it out. I know you love these guys. I told you niggas about the spin guard medals list over the last 100 years of the NAACP. All your motherfucking favorites is on that list. All your socialist, communist, integrationists is on that list. Year after year, doing the dirty work. Not to mention that you can't go to one city in America after being free from slavery in 1865, somewhere around there, till today, and find one black town where we getting down and we in control of the economics in that proportion. Now, there were times when you could have went somewhere like that. You could have went to Allenworth in what they call Bakersfield, California today. And you could have found a man who created a black society from the ideas of Booker T. Washington and not from W.B. Du Bois. You could have went to Dearborn, Michigan and found a black man who had created a black city under the ideas of Booker T. Washington, do for self policy. You could have went to a black Wall Street and found black folks in control of their economics where the dollar circulated 98% before it left the community under the guise of the ideas of a Booker T. Washington. You could have went to Little Liberia, California, south of Los Angeles, and found 10,000 black people creating a city where they control their economics out of the ideas of a do-for-self policy of a Booker T. Washington. And these men directly call out Booker T as their inspiration. All before Garvey ever showed the fuck up. I don't even believe that a city was created, that black folks took on the Garvey ideas and created a city after Garvey left, because this new bourgeoisie took over as soon as Garvey got deported. Therefore, there would be no more black cities created off this Booker T shit. This is why you simpletons focus on Garvey, because you don't know what the fuck was really going on in black America. You don't have a fucking clue. Because you niggas think that the one man, Booker T. Washington, who inspired Garvey and 1,000 other motherfuckers to go do some Black to Africa shit, was a fucking coon. And you placed that nigga with W.B. Du Bois in the literary arts movement. And the only motherfucker we can find that took a stab at this bullshit is Harold Cruse, and you don't know who the fuck he is. How could you ever fuck with Pitt boss, nigga, in 2018?